Hey everyone, my name is Raeef, and this video is part 2 of my series, How to Start Coding. So right in front of me you can see part 1 of the series, starting from scratch, which is a blog article on my website. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. For those of you who haven't gone through this article yet, I highly recommend it. For those of you who have, welcome back. And today we're going to focus on actually creating a nice little game on Scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, head to the Scratch website. So once you're here, make sure you're logged in to your account. And what you're going to want to do is to go up to the nav bar and click Create. So this will basically create a new Scratch project for you, and it'll load it into your account. So once you're here, you should recognize this screen from the blog article in part 1. But today, like I said, our focus is actually creating a full game. So let me just tell you what our game is going to be about. So the game is going to be a simple boat sailing to treasure game. So we're going to have a sailboat, and it's going to the player is going to be able to control the sailboat, steer it, and bring it to some treasure on an island. And you're going to want to avoid the island. If you hit the island, your ship will be wrecked and the game will be over, and you want to steer throughout the island and go to the gold. Okay, so enough explaining, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get our boat player ready. So we're going to want to use a sprite for the boat, because sprites have motion capabilities, and we want the boat to be able to be controlled by the player and move around the screen. Unfortunately, we're not going to need the cat for this project, so you can go ahead and come over here to the sprite menu and delete the cat. And what you're going to want to do is to come down here to the sprite selection area, and you're going to want to click the magnifying glass, the kind of the search icon, and this will bring you to Scratch's sprite repository. So here there's like a lot of sprites for where you can choose from, but for today's tutorial we are going to use Scratch's boat sprite. So you can come up here and you can type a boat, and you'll find the sailboat, and we're going to use this one for the project. So you can go ahead and click on it, and this will load in the boat into your project. Great. So the first thing we're going to want to do after we load in the boat is actually get our game, the background of the game, ready. So the background, of course, doesn't need to move, so we can go ahead and create a backdrop for it. So go over to where it says Stage, and enter the Backdrops menu. And once you're here, you're going to want to navigate to where it says Backdrops up here with kind of like the paintbrush icon, and go here. So it'll bring you to Scratch's graphical editor. So in this graphical editor, we'll design our map. So to do this, let's add some water first. And we're going to use the box tool. So let's get the box tool, and let's draw a box right over the screen. Okay, great. Now, of course, we want the ocean to be blue. So let's change this to a more blue color. And you can come up here to the fill color section, click drop down, and you can edit the color however you like. And we're gonna make this a nice blue color. Oh, it didn't change. Okay, so to make sure it's changing, actually click the box first and then go up here, or else you'll just be changing the color of nothing. Okay. Yeah, this blue is nice. Okay. And so an important thing to note here is you want to make sure that when you draw the box, it actually crosses over this white line here. Let me zoom in. If you look closely, you'll see this kind of like the white border line here. So this is basically the border of the screen. So an easy way to explain what this actually is just taking the box and just dragging it here. And you'll see that now you can actually see parts of the black outline and the empty white space. So this white outline basically shows you what the player will be able to see. And in this case, we only want them to see the blue box and no other white space. So when you draw the box, make sure it actually extends over this white border line. Okay, great. So now we have our ocean. The next thing we're going to want to do is draw an island. So you can come over here and select the paintbrush tool and then choose a color for the island. We'll go with just a simple green. And we can change this later, it's not a problem. So then let's go over here and let's draw an island. The brush size is a little bit small, so I'm gonna go over here and change it to, let's see, 20. 20 is nice. Okay, so let's draw a nice little island. Give it a little spike. Okay, that's a nice little island. Great. So the next thing we're going to want to do is actually fill in the island. Our island isn't just some outline, there's actually land in the middle. So what we can do is we can go over and use the paint bucket tool. You can select it. The same color is already selected, so that's all good. And what you're going to want to do is hover over this island. And once you can see like kind of a preview of what it's going to look like, you can go ahead and click. And it will automatically fill the island with that color. Okay, great. And if you accidentally click the background and made it all green, no worries, just hit Control Z on your keyboard and it will undo your last action. Great, now we have an island. And if you don't like the color of the island, that's perfectly fine. Like we did with the background, you can just click the island and change the color up here. So let's say if we might want to make this a little bit darker. Nice, okay, that works. I actually liked it a little bit lighter, so I'm going to change it back to that. Okay, great. And now the last thing we want to do is add our treasure. We want to add the gold. So let's go over here and let's make our gold circles, like gold coins. And let's choose a goldish color. Now, I'm no art expert, so my gold may not be very good, but it's okay. It'll work. Okay, great. I think this gold will work. So let's put our treasure right here. Let's draw some circles. And they don't have to be perfect circles, let's just put some gold here. And if you want to speed up the process, what you can do is you can zoom in using this magnifying glass. And then you can use the select tool, like the mouse cursor tool. You can select like 2 circles, holding shift and clicking both of them, then clicking Control C to clicking Control V, and basically these group them together and you can just copy and paste circles. Okay, great. I think that's our island ready to go. Ooh, but one last thing we should add is a name on the island. Let's call this Treasure Island. So to add text to your island, you can go over here and click the text tool and just click anywhere. And let's give it a name. Let's call this Treasure Island. Oops, you can't see the color of the text because it's the same green, but that's not a problem. Just make sure you're selected to the text. Go over here and let's give this a different color. Let's give it a red. Boom. Okay, great. Treasure Island. And we'll just put that right there. Okay. So now our background is finished. Now we can return to the sailboat. So let's fix up the sailboat. The first thing we're going to want to do, if you remember from part 1, the first block you're going to need is when green flag clicked, which is the block that's run when the project is actually started by the user. So the first thing we should probably do is make the boat a little bit smaller. It's too big right now. So right now it's the size is 100. If you go over here and look at like the sprites details. And to change that, we can go over here to the looks block section and find the change size by block. So you drag this block over, and you can use this thing to change the size of the boat. So you can say like change size by 10, which makes the block bigger. Let's make this -10, makes it smaller. This is one way to do it, but I think the better way is to use the set size block. So this just sets it to a specific size without the need to change size a specific number of times. So you can just come over here, you can select, let's say we want to set size to, let's try something like 30. Perfect. That looks like a good size for our boat, 30. So let's leave that here. Great. So now let's add some motion capabilities. So in this specific game, we want our boat to keep moving forward and the user to have to steer it with their arrow keys. So to do this is pretty easy. What we're going to want to do is to go up to motion and find the move block. And let's put this right here. And now moving 10 steps is pretty fast on the screen. So let's change it to a number like 3. We want the boat to move a little bit slower. Okay, great. But if we run this right now, what's going to happen is the boat is only going to move 3 once. And it's not really going anywhere. So to fix this, let's go over to control and find this block called the forever loop. So the forever loop basically means that the code inside here will loop forever until the user stops the project. So for our case, this is great because we want the boat to keep moving forever until like the game ends or the user decides to end the game. So if we run this, our boat will nicely glide through the screen. Great. And it's the right speed. We can try 10 steps. No, like I guessed, it was too fast. But if you really want to make it a challenge for your players, you can make it 10. But that might get a little bit difficult. Okay, well now there's a new problem. As you can see, is when we ran it again, the boat's kind of stuck in this corner. So what you can do is you can drag it back here by clicking the boat. When you run it again, boom. But the issue here is every time the boat goes off the screen, you just have to drag it back, and we can't have our users having to worry about that. So one way to fix this is to give it a specific spawn location. So what you can do is you can drag the boat to wherever you want it to start off. So let's say we drag it right here. Great. So now if we go up to motion, and we can drag the go to X and Y block. And what we want to do is we want to put it right above set size. Now, the key to this is it doesn't really matter if it's below set size or above set size. It just needs to, you just need to make sure it's not in the forever loop. This is because when we eventually add like motion capabilities to the boat, and when the boat is moving forward, if we put this block inside the forever loop, it'll just keep moving it back here to the spawn. And we don't want to keep resetting the boat's position. So let's just leave it like this. And the nice thing about Scratch is when you move the boat, it'll automatically like change the coordinates. See, take a look at this. Keep your eyes on this block right here and see what happens when I move the boat. It automatically autofills this block with the current position of the boat. So that's a nice thing for us. So let's just move it back here. And I think these numbers will do us fine. But you can change it by clicking the circle and change it to something like, I don't know, -190. This is nice. This will work. So now the boat's moving forward, and every time the user starts the project, it resets position. Great. Now, let's actually add some steering capabilities to the boat. So what we want the user to be able to do is to click arrow keys on their keyboard and to move like the right arrow and the left arrow and to be able to steer the boat. So this is pretty easy. What we can do is go over to sensing, and we can get the block that says key space pressed. So by default, it's checking whether the space key on your keyboard is pressed. And if you click the block, it says false. So it kind of gives you a preview of what the value inside the block is. So right now the space key on my keyboard is not pressed, so it returns false. But if I hold space and then I click this button, then it says true. So that's great. Now we know that it's working, but we don't want our user to use the space key. So let's use the right arrow. So now when I press this sensing block, it says false, but let me press and hold my right key. Great, it says true. So the way we can use this to control the boat's movement is to go over back to control and find the if then block. So what this block basically does is it checks if the right arrow key is pressed. Right now I'm not pressing it, so it's false. And when I do press it, it's true. So if the right arrow key is pressed and it returns true, then execute some code inside of it. If it's not pressed, then just continue on with the rest of the code. Great, so let's move this in here. So if our right arrow key is pressed, what we're going to want to do is actually make the boat rotate. So we can do that by going back to motion and finding the turn block. So let's get the turn degrees block. And let's keep it like this. And let's play it. Let's try this. Now when you press the right arrow key, it should turn your boat. Now, it's turning the boat a little bit faster, more fast than we want it to. So a way we can fix this is simply by decreasing the rotation speed. So let's just go over here to turn, and let's change this to 5 degrees. Okay, great. Now when we load in, the speed of the boat is a little bit more controllable, which is great. But we have to add some way so the boat can turn left as well. So to do this is actually pretty easy. Just go over to where the if statement is and right click right over like the if word. And then it'll say duplicate. Duplicate this. Great. Now just go over to the sensing block and change this to left arrow, and then go find the degrees turn block, the one that's the arrows pointing at an opposite direction. Swap out this one, the new one, and change it to 5. And now our boat should also turn left. Oh, sorry, steer it back. Great, it turns left too. But you've probably noticed a bug here too. When we start the project, the boat's just pointing in the direction we last left off on. And this is similar to the issue we faced when the boat was being stuck on the other side of the screen. So to fix this is pretty easy. Just go over to the motion block, find the point in direction, and set it to 90 degrees for it to point straight. And make sure you don't put this in forever, because we only want to do this at the beginning, and we don't want to force the boat to keep facing 90 degrees the entire time. And if we run this again, you'll see that now when the game starts, the boat is facing forward. And even if we face down and end the game, start it off again, the boat's going to start facing forwards again. Great. Now for those of you who are curious and was wondering, hey, what happens if you do put it in the forever loop? Well, let's try it out. Let's put this in the forever loop. Let's see what happens. Now, if we try to use the arrow keys, see how it kind of like resists against you? Because what's happening is we're telling the boat, hey, when right arrow key pressed, turn 5 degrees. But then when the loop is rerun, because it's a forever loop, when it goes back up here, now all of a sudden it's saying, oh, 0.90 degrees. So we're like telling the boat to turn, but we're also telling it to go back to 90 degrees. So it gets confused. So let's leave this block up here. Put it down here. Great. So now we have the boat's movement working. Now we need some way to figure out whether the boat's touching the island, in which case it would be wrecked because it's crashed upon the shore, or whether it's touching the gold, in which case the game would alert that we have won. So to fix this is pretty easy. Let's add another sensing block. Let's go back to sensing and let's find the block that says touching color ? So we want to detect whether the boat is touching the green color of the island. And if it is, we want to alert that the game has ended. So to do this is pretty simple. Let's go get another if block. So we're going to say if touching color green, then end the game. And maybe do some other things too, but we'll worry about that later. So let's make sure that this green right here is matching with this green here. So to do this is pretty easy. Click the circle where the green is, and then come down here and click what's looking like kind of like a dropper symbol. So if you click this, it'll open up this kind of screen on your map, or sorry, your project preview, and you can go ahead and click the green color here. You can choose the green color on the island. And boom, it will autofill it to that exact RGB value of that island. So now we can just put this in here, and we can say, okay, if touching color green, then let's end the game. And we can do this by going to control and using the stop all block. So this block basically ends everything that's happening in the game. It's like a forced stop. So it stops all scripts, it stops the forever loop, and it stops the boat from reacting to arrow keys and everything. So let's just put this right here. Let's try this. Okay, great. We're sailing, and boom. We've hit the shore, the game has ended, and the game is over. But to some users, this can be a little bit confusing, because we're not really telling our player, like, hey, the game has ended. If the game just stops abruptly, many players might get confused. So to fix this, let's make the boat alert the user, like, hey, the game has ended, you've wrecked into the land. So to do this, we can go up to looks, and we can find the block that says say. Now, we're going to use the say hello block for a specific reason. So let's write a message here, and we're going to say, let's say something like, oh, your ship is wrecked, game over. Great. And we're going to use specifically the say message for 2 seconds block. I know there's another say block up here that doesn't have 2 seconds. I'll explain why we're using this one instead. So let's put this here. Let's run it. Great. Nice. Now when we crash, it displays that message for 2 seconds. You can increase the number of seconds it shows up for, but it shows it for that number of seconds, and then the game ends. Okay, so why is it important that I took the one that waits for a couple seconds before ending the game? Well, let's try using the say block that doesn't wait for any seconds. So I'm just going to copy this text and paste it in here. I'm going to move this block out, put this block here, and I'm going to put this the stop all block back. Let's crash into the island now. See, what happens here is the boat doesn't actually say anything and the game just ends abruptly. Because you have to remember, code is instantaneous. It's running through this loop extremely quickly, like 100 to 200 times a second. Now, I don't know the exact value, but it's fast enough to the point where the before the boat even gets to say that the ship is wrecked and game over, and the screen actually renders that text, the game is just ending. So it's basically saying, like, imagine like we click say, like it's saying this, but it's stopping, and that text goes away almost immediately. So to prevent this from happening and prevent the game from ending so abruptly, we want to create some sort of pause between the say and the stop block. So to do this, we just hook up these two and put it here. And this time, originally, like you saw, now when we crash into the island, it says that text, and then it waits for 3 seconds, and then it stops it, which allows the user to actually see the boat say it. Whereas the say block, the boat would say it so fast, and then the game would end. Nobody would notice it. Great. So now this part is ready. Let's add the last part of our game, which is detecting if you've hit the gold. So this is pretty easy. All you have to really do is just copy this block right here, this if statement, which is sensing if you've touched the color of the island, and changing the color to the gold. So as you remember, we go over, click the color icon, go to the eyedropper, find the gold, choose a specific color, and we can put this back in here, but we don't want the game to say your ship is wrecked. So let's say you found the gold. Yay. Okay, we'll display this for 3 seconds, and then we'll stop the game so the user has known they won. So let's steer the ship. I'm gonna go past over here, and boom, you found the gold. Yay. And then the game ends. Now, this is great. Our game is pretty much finished. But let's add some extra things to the game to make it a little bit more cool. For example, let's add audio to the game. So let's say we want to play some sort of music when our ship gets wrecked, and play some music when we found the gold. So to add audio into Scratch projects is actually really easy. What you want to do is you want to go up here to where it says sounds, right next to costumes and code. Go ahead and go into sounds, and this is your sounds menu. So you'll see a sound, by default, pop is included in your project, and you can see what the sounds sounds like. Said a lot of sounds in that sentence, but you can see what it sounds like by clicking this play button right here. So pop is pretty simple, it's just a pop, but we want a little bit of a different sound. So let's go to the Scratch's sound library, which is extremely similar to the sprite library that we saw earlier. So you can go in here, and let's find a sound called, so what happens when a boat sinks? I guess, if there's a sink noise? No, there's no sink. What about bubbles? Great. Yep, that sounds like a boat slowly falling into the water. But we want to get another sound as well. Let's also get a wind sound. For when you, not wind, sorry, a wind sound. So when you like find the gold. So is there a wind sound effect? There is. There's. And you can preview the sounds like I did by hovering over the play button. That's Triumph. And that's Wind. I think I like Wind better. It's a little bit quieter. Not quieter. It's a little bit not as long as Triumph. which is good. It's only 2 seconds long, and you can see how long the songs are by looking at the small number right here. So it's only 2 seconds long, and I think that's good for us. So now let's head over back to code. Now while we're here, you want to navigate over to where it says sound. And when you go to sounds, you want to get the block that says play sound. And there's 2 blocks you can use. You can use play sound, song name until done, or start sound, and that's the sound. So I'll show you both and why I prefer using one over the other. So I prefer using start sound, but I'll show you what happens if you use play sound instead. So let's add 2 sounds. Let's duplicate the block. We want one sound to be bubbles and one sound to be win. Win is already selected, so we're good. So let's put bubbles right when we find out we're touching the green color, which is the island, which is when the boat sinks. And let's use win when we found the gold. So let's start this and find out what happens. Great. So as you can see, when we crashed into the island, it played the bubble sound, then it said your ship is wrecked, and then it ended the game. And if we find the treasure, let's navigate over to the treasure real quick. Great. It played the win sound, and it also notified the user that you found the gold and stopped the game. But the thing I don't like here is that it waits till the sound is done playing before it notifies the user of what actually happened, which can may confuse the user or player. So the alternative you can use is start sound, and basically just replace the play sound blocks here, or you can just like right click this block and delete it. And what you're going to want to do is just do exactly what we did earlier, but use the start sound block. So put bubbles here, put that up here, and keep this as a win. And now we're going to use the start sound block. So notice the difference here. See, this time the sound was playing as the message was displayed. So the reason this is happening is this block is basically playing the sound until the sound is finished, and then the program is displaying this message for 3 seconds, and then the game is stopping. But what's happening here is bubbles is starting in the background, then this message is displayed for 3 seconds, and then everything stops at the stop button. So technically, when we're using this block of code, as you know, bubbles is 4 seconds long, but it's getting cut off at the 3 second point, because we're just waiting 3 seconds before the game is stopping. And for us, that's perfectly fine. The user doesn't need to hear all of bubbles for the game to end, and win is only 2 seconds long, so it doesn't matter. And this way, the sound and the text is being heard and seen at the same time, which I think is great. Okay. If we crash, the game ends, and if we play again, hopefully get the gold. Boom. We found the gold. Great. And that's pretty much it for the Treasure Island game. Some other small notes that I'd like to mention before I end this video is that in backdrops, you can add more maps. So you can basically go in here like in backdrops, and you can, let's say, duplicate this, and you can edit a new map. So let's say our new map, let's delete this old map. Let's get our brush tool, and it should be the same green color, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's draw a new kind of circular map, and go ahead and get the paint bucket tool and paint it green. And you'll see that our text and gold disappeared, but it didn't actually disappear. It's just that this is it's appearing like in terms of like graphical layers, it's appearing on top of the other two. So to fix this, just select the island and go up here where it says back and just force it back. And this is actually sending it behind our background as well, which is what we don't want. So let's just push it forward once. Great. So now you can see our gold, our text as well. So the gold is over the island right now, and well, which makes it impossible for the ship to reach it. So just hold the shift button on your keyboard and click the gold coins. This will basically select all of them at once like we did earlier, and it allows us to move them all at once without having to come back for each one separately. And if you're having trouble clicking them, just zoom in, but that's optional, of course. And we can go here and we can rotate the gold too using this sort of rotator down here. And let's put the gold here. Great. And we can give our maps a name. So we can go here to costume, or which is basically kind of like the map name, and we can call this map. Oops, sorry. Map. I'm a horrible typer. Sorry. Map 1, and we can go here and we can call this map 2. Okay, great. So now if we go to code, we can get a when click block, and then you can go over to looks and you can find a switch backdrop. Okay, great. So now we can change the map that our user will play. So let's say map when click switch to map 1. So this is our first map, as you have already seen. And if we go here and switch this to map 2, now we're playing on the second map. Great. Now we have 2 maps, and let's see if this one works. Okay, when it hits the green, the game ends, which is great. And to make sure that this works, you have to make sure that the greens are the same color values. And the gold works too. Great. So now you can add more maps as you wish. And the last thing I want to show before I really end this tutorial is how to add some background music to the game. Right now we already have these kind of sound effects, the bubbles and wind, but like I said, these are just sound effects. This is not actually like background music. So you can do this by going to backdrops, or really any sprite. But I prefer putting this in backdrops because it's kind of like the main background. It handles the background stuff, and music is just background. So get a forever block and go find a nice background sound. So let's find some music. You can go up here and choose like some categories. Let's look at, I don't know, space maybe. Those are all really creepy and alarming. Let's try to find something more calm. But I think this is cool. This is chill. If you want to make it a little bit quieter, I can show you how to do that too. So as we did before, let's go into sounds and let's find start sound, dance, chill out. And we can go over here and find the set volume button. And let's set it to something like 50, something quieter. Great. But we don't actually need to put the set volume button in the forever loop. We just need to mention this once at the top. So let's put it up there. Oh, that was not a good sound. So what happened there was basically the forever block, it kept starting the sound dance chill out over and over again in a loop. Remember, we don't want to do that. So to prevent that from happening, let's use the play sound button and the block instead. So let's take out this block and put this block here. Great. So now it'll wait till this sound is done playing until it plays it again. Great. I'm liking this. Now, remember, you can choose whatever song you want. Just because I chose Dance Chill Out, you don't have to choose that one. Just make sure the volume's not too high. You don't want to hurt any of your players' ears. Okay, so that's it for the game. I know I promised to end the video, and if you gotta leave, you can go now. But I'm gonna show you one last thing. I'm gonna squeeze into the time is how to share this project actually. So if you're not interested in doing this, that's fine. You can click off the video right now. The tutorial's officially finished. We're not gonna add any more code. I'm just gonna show you how to actually share this with your friends. So the first thing you can do is to go up here and let's change the project name. Let's call this Treasure Island. And for this to work, make sure you're in the online version of Scratch. I know there's a downloadable version of it that you can run locally on your computer, but to share projects, you need to make sure you're in the online one. And you need to make sure you're logged in. So great. Now we have named our game. Let's click the save now. button, and let's head on over to our project page. Okay, so to head on over to the project page, just going to go up here and click See Project Page. And once you're here, you'll see your game name, the actual game, the scratch menu bar, your user, and everything else. So from here, what you can do is go over here and click the share button. Once you click share, now this game will be available to all your friends who you give the URL to. So you can find the URL by going up to your nav bar and finding this URL right here, this project number. So you can give this link to any of your friends through like chat app or whatever, to share them with this link, and they'll be able to play your game online right now. And you can edit like instructions on the project, like you can add instructions here. So let's say use right and left arrow keys, avoid the island, go to the gold. So those are some basic instructions you can write for your user. And you can choose to turn on comments or turn comments off. That's all up to you. And yeah, and your project should be ready to go. Now, one thing I would like to note here is if you're when your friends log into Scratch and go to this link, they will be able to see inside your project. Like if they click see inside, they'll be able to see your code that you wrote and everything, and they'll be able to mess around with it. But don't worry, because if they mess around with the code, it only affects the code that's on their side. So the second you reload the browser, the code you wrote, the original code you wrote, comes right back. The reason Scratch allows other people to kind of like to see your code and actually edit it is to help them maybe learn how your code works and stuff like that. But the code you wrote here, this always stays, so don't worry. Nobody can vandalize it or anything just because they click see inside the project. So you don't have to worry about that. But that's it. Now, for the last time and officially, thanks for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.